Look, detectives combing through the hood looking for a corpse. Draco hitting. I don't think your body can endure the force. I whipped the fish up with a fucking hanger or a fork. Told that bitch, go ahead, sniff what you want. There's plenty more to snort. I had an outstanding warrant for a short. Turned myself in, rocking Louis and all my jewelry. I wore the court.
Welcome, everybody. Hard to Kill, episode 86 of the Hard to Kill podcast. We're here with Jess Quezada from CEO or founder of Liborisk, which is killing it right now. I've been watching you on the come up on Instagram, and I love what I see. So, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, Jessica.
Yeah, so I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I served 8 years as a combat correspondent and really took the effort to explore life outside the military, which can
Which is
be
rare.
quite well. It's just like there's so much bullshit, man. There's so much bullshit, a lot of discouragement. You have all these prerequisites that you have to hurdle through. And so I tried to make it a priority when I could, which was a struggle within itself. But I think that ultimately we deserve that time.
So, one of the main things that caught my eye, one of my first shorts that I put out was an interview with First Sergeant Flynn. And what he talked about was just getting out of the barracks as a young Marine. A lot of guys get caught in this stigma where they think they can't make enough to get out of the barracks, or they're just stuck there drinking on the weekends with the parties that go on in the barracks. You get stuck in that cycle, when really you're in some of the best places in the world you can be in to go out and do some stuff. And there seems like there's a bit of a stigma. I don't know if guys just are stuck in that thought of that, or if they just have never done it, so they don't know, but they definitely have the opportunity to see something very cool. And I think that's something that you're kind of pointing out here. Is that something that you dealt with that maybe as a young Marine, or?
I did. And, I was questioned often, like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you doing this? One of the biggest trips that I went on was a month-long stint to Colombia.
That's awesome.
And at the time, I know it's insane. At the time, I was a marketing director for the recruiting station. So it's one-man show. I report to the XO. That's it. It's very uncommon to have this type of structure in the Marine Corps, right? No colleagues, no peers, no leadership. I just reported to the XO. It was wild. I can't believe this was my job. Wow. So because I was a support asset for like a lot of the events and the PR stuff happening for the recruiters, if I knew my timeline for that year, I could take that month off, but I'm working 11 months for the rest of the time. It was so cool. So it's like I was able to justify leaving for that long, right? And ultimately, people were joking like, "Oh, what are you doing in Colombia? Hookah and hookers?" Nah, dude, I want to go hiking in the jungle. I want to go explore the culture. I want to see what this beautiful place has to offer.
Sure. Definitely.
And the fact that people question it because they're so ignorant about these places, it just goes to show the small-mindedness that occurs, and it's massively unfortunate.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there. And I think it's because we've just had these cycles of Marines that have done the same thing over and over, and no one's really challenged or poked the system at all. So you really see the same product coming out of it, as you highlighted. Now, so take me to where you're from, how you got into the Marine Corps, and what it was like for you as a young Marine.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm originally from Dallas, Texas. I'm born and raised Southerner by heart.
Okay.
And I went to an art school and had no inkling of joining the Marine Corps whatsoever. But my brother was interested in pursuing this career path and unfortunately got into quite a bit of trouble. So I kind of stepped in and ended up getting the title. Right. And so I served as a combat correspondent initially in Quantico. So I was stationed there with the Marine Corps Recruiting Command, covering a lot of the national diversity events that we had. So I went anywhere from New York to Nashville, all over the place.
So you were traveling a lot. Okay.
Yeah. Again, my career was very uncommon. And so I spent a year there bouncing around the United States covering those national diversity events. And then I spent 2 years in the Air Station, Marine Corps Air Station Iwakuni, as the future and current operations chief, managing all of the coverage we had for the Pacific Theater. So that was also a great stint where I really got to travel and experience Japan at its deepest cultural roots. And then
What'd you think? What'd you think? Because I love Japan.
Oh, Japan, it's like if there is any culture that you could mimic across the board when it comes to the rest of the world, I think they are just amazing people. I mean, no trash, very mindful.
I
Like
know,
your
right?
space is
Very
their
true.
space.
Yeah. What do you think?
So,
Now it was something I noticed in Japan. There was definitely like at the top, like honcho drivers, food workers, people that work the service industry out there. You can tell they've
mhm.
dealt with Marines for a little bit, and there's a little bit of that like tension there. Like I don't know if that's because they're salty about World War II still, or if they're who knows what it is. Maybe it's we've had there and we've acted like idiots for years. I mean, it could be a handful of things. But I think when you really start getting involved at the probably you were at a little bit deeper, you see that there's a fascinating culture there. And it really gazes around respect and the way that they handle themselves is actually really see if you actually get to see it. And I think what to do that is to do exactly what you're saying you're doing. You're traveling, you're getting to these places that people don't normally go to. You're showing your personality a little bit, so I'm sure they feel comfortable around you. I mean, what rank were you when you were out there?
I got all the way up to sergeant, and then I'm corporal. So NJP crowd, right? No,
Nice. I
but
see.
yeah.
Honestly, I don't feel like you're a real person unless you got a little bit of a, you know what I'm saying
Hey,
on there. Like, come on.
that's what Chessie Puller said, man. So you're not a real Marine unless you got NJP.
I got you. So, okay. So you actually, would you say all in all, you had a positive experience?
I mean, I think the Marine Corps is one big fat juicy experience, right? And in comparison to the other branches too, there's like uncomplicated shit made complicated is what the acronym stands for.
Facts.
And we joke
Facts.
about that. And there's like this love-hate relationship with knowing that you grew so much as a human being profoundly, and it helps establish grounding as a civilian when you transition because you recognize the hardships that you went through. Like your tolerance for things are just like way above the standard in society. And so
You're
I'm really
tough. You're
grateful for
tough. Like
that.
you can keep going. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's
And
what that
I
means.
thought resiliency is just like lacking in normal society these days, right? So
Especially today. Come on.
oh, for sure, for sure. So I'm grateful for that. And I wouldn't say that, every day was a perfect day, but I look back at it and I'm very proudful to have been a part of the community. And, some of the most, I'll say men, because it's a majority men in the Marine Corps. There's only 7% of women. It's like, I met some profoundly amazing men who were just mentors and like, I don't know, like their impact
Well, just
on
just
the
for you,
rest of the organization was
just for you,
huge.
not to interrupt you, just for you to say that means to me you saw the other side as well. Because there is in the Marine Corps, there's a certain male dominated, fucking females can't do anything. Where the tip of the spear, you know what I'm saying? Like I've seen that, and I have a lot of female friends that talk about it. And
Yeah.
to a certain degree, you have to be have a layer of skin that can just push that shit aside and just hold within yourself the knowledge that you're the shit and you can do your job better than the other person. And if you do that, I think you're very successful in the Marine Corps.
Yeah. Well, I think authenticity is really easy to feel when it comes to other human beings. And you start to recognize as you progress in your career that the types of authentic Marines that you'll encounter it becomes easier to meet and to become connected to them because those who are inauthentic, they give a specific air of ignorance
They do.
and bullshit
They
that you
do.
just don't even want to be around. It's
That's a
like,
fact.
who cares, dude? At the end of the day, we're all just trying to be our own best
Yeah.
version of
It's like we're
ourselves,
all here, you know what I'm saying? Like, come, yeah, I feel you
Who
completely.
cares?
Okay, so would you say that you kind of took I mean, a lot of the stuff that you got were in the military and dumped it into Liborisk, and you've been running ever since? Are
Oh,
you
yeah.
what are you really looking? Are you looking for that demographic of Marines that didn't get out, or are you trying to like service the wounded combat guys that are, have been dealing with it ever since they got out and they haven't been able to plug back into society? Are you after that?
Yeah. Well, I'll answer this question. So the first one being like, am I applying what I learned in the Marine Corps? And I would say absolutely 100%. As a marketing director and correspondent, like understanding the way of social media management and applying storytelling into how I curate this community. That was the bedrock of what I did for the Marine Corps at Recruiting Station Orange County, like understanding our community and sharing their stories. That inspired others to join. And one of the hardest things that you could do, one of the hardest buying decisions, is enlisting in the United States military. I mean, you're not buying a fucking Apple iPhone. You're not buying groceries. You are buying a lifestyle, or you are buying into an ideal. That's very hard to sell. So if you can sell that well, and you know those tactics and procedures, that, I mean, transcends any type of business. So it's applicable across the board. And that's definitely what I've done with Liborisk. Community has always been the bedrock. And in terms of who we're in search for, I mean, we focus on troops of all generations, all branches, all eras, and all discharges. So we definitely want to ensure that people understand that we're not capping it on like a disability. We're not capping it on deployments or if you've been to combat or not. Like if you put on the uniform and you're a good human being and you want to abide by our ethos, be receptive, be respectful, be risky, then you're a part of the tribe.
Gotcha. That's badass. What? I mean, did you just fucking think that one day you were going to do it, or what motivated you to do this? This is kind of like a big step for you. I'm sure it was. I mean, before I started this podcast, I was nervous. You know what I'm saying? Like something like that. You know, you're taking on a lot of responsibility. Is that always wanted, or did something motivate you to do that?
I love that question. And that's definitely something that I've started to have like a deeper sense of responsibility for what I'm building. Like it was cool and fun initially, like to say I started a Facebook group, but I'm like now at a point where I'm like, okay, what the fuck am I doing? Like literally, what am I doing? Right. And that has been dialed in these past few months tremendously. There's a couple books that I've read, like Built to Sell, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Code of Culture, and Small Giants is another great business book. These books illustrate the fundamental impact of what a small business can do on the world. And when you understand that and start to absorb that, you're like, holy shit, I could be changing lives. I could be helping put food on the tables. You don't think of
it like that when you start. You know what I mean?
No.
Like I hear you completely.
It's beautiful. I started this because I was just asked all the time about traveling because I was constantly doing it. And I'm like, wow, there's a void. There is not a
so you saw, okay, I got you.
Well, there wasn't a single military travel community. Yeah. Nobody was doing it. And I'm like, well, this is stupid. Let's start a Facebook and Instagram and just have a community.
Yeah, virtually. I'm already doing it. Why wouldn't I? Yeah, I feel you.
So it kind of launched there, and just I wanted to start these gatherings and host these retreats that were affordable. And I will say, having surveyed the industry, there's a lot of military nonprofits that focus on like a specific activity, but they're all nonprofits. It's oversaturated. They're underfunded. They're understaffed.
They're doing it for the wrong reasons. Yeah, I feel you.
It's like, dude, fuck that. First off, I'm not politically correct. I don't want to start a nonprofit because you have to be politically correct. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm me. I am me.
I get you.
I just do things the right way, and I get the job done. Like nonprofits.
That's all that matters at the end of the day. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So we're doing the same thing as a for-profit, and we're getting the prices down enough to where it's affordable for service members and veterans, and making it accessible. It's not this elitist thing. So it's been a project, but ultimately, yeah, I've definitely taken on a greater sense of responsibility for what we're building.
What would you think now, like at the point you're at right now, like looking at it, what has been like your oh shit moment? Like the thing that hit you the hardest, like, damn, I started this. Damn, we're doing this. Damn, it's working.
I think every time I host a trip and I leave that experience knowing that people felt emotionally, physically safe, and they had tools that they could take home and actually implement into their lives.
Put in their lives, yeah.
Yeah, it's like when I hear that, and another thing too, like I've been really beating myself down hard and like being incredibly self-critical about, you know, the progression of Liborisk and feeling like it's not going fast enough. And it's like, there is no rush. I just have to remember that there's no rush.
You said the right. I'm dealing with that currently on my end, and like certain people make you feel like you should be doing different things or being further in your journey. Honestly, it's going to progress. It's going to progress, and it's going to be my way. And I see you, and I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, Rome wasn't built in a day. We know that. So one of the things that I loved about the book Small Giants was it talked about the intentional growth and ensuring that however the business decided to launch, that it remained focused on that community. And I think that's the really exciting part about it, right? It's just continuing to remember that community over coin, and then you'll see the benefits of the growth later on.
It'll grow
So
naturally.
yeah, for sure. And one of the things that I recently did that definitely helped was I looked at all of the testimonials from our retreats that they leave at the end of our survey. And like 5 people said, Jess needs to stop being so hard on herself. Like they knew I was being too self-critical. And then in addition to that, they were just saying these amazing paragraphs worth of kind words and overall their and how beautiful it was, and it was life-changing and transformed their lives. And that's the kind of stuff that you read on later and you're like, wow, okay, I am
It
making
hits
a
different.
difference.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so you sold me. Talk to me about a trip. Say, let's talk one coming up. You got one coming up in Panama, I thought I saw.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's something like look like from start to finish?
Yeah, so we always keep a communal setting. So we're either staying in a big Airbnb where everybody can hang out, they can cook, they can be together, or we stay in the hostel setting where it's almost like, the dorm life, right?
Yep.
And so that not only helps with maintaining the communal sense, but also with affordability. There's some beautiful hostels out there. So in Panama, we're working with Selena, which is a world-renowned hostel where we're going to have accommodations with them. And we're going to go around and get like a full culturally immersive experience with Panama. And one of the things that is incredibly important to us is helping connect service members and veterans to the lives of others, the livelihoods of these cultures that are very different from their own. Unless they're from that country, they don't know what they don't know. So we're going to have a cooking class, a bicycle tour around the old city. We're going to have a 5-hour cruise in the Panama Canal. And then in the jungle, we're going to go salsa dancing, and we're going to be at a chocolate eco farm and all these different things. And so that flavor of that Panama trip is really focused on cultural immersion. Think like Anthony Bourdain type thing. That's what that is.
I fuck with that. Okay. Now, are you in charge of all the planning and the meat and potatoes of the trips?
Pretty much. And that has been a really wild experience, just figuring out like the methodology and how we like to plan trips. We have a certain recipe and flavor. So while I'm the brain of it, we are actually bringing somebody on. I'm very excited to have this person who has incredible experience and knowledge, just only from, his military service in the Army for 20 plus years. And then coming into Liborisk, being an avid traveler, working in the film industry and other things too. So I'm excited. I'm not going to spill the beans yet, but he's going to be helping us with planning all of these trips. And then once we have that trip dialed down, we can just repeat it over and over again, and then hire on veteran facilitators to get to go out and be deployed for these trips, essentially.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's cool. So.
Oh, I like that. That sounds dope. Wow, so it's growing. It's growing. Okay. That's awesome. I love seeing independent things like this that are actually ran by veterans, that are actually staying to certain morals and certain ethos that certain veterans hold dear. And it going away. Because to give you an example, I got into 2A or the veteran space probably I think 2 years ago now, and I've noticed a lot of big companies get these veteran spokespeople just to be their puppet and do anything they say for $1. And it when I first got into the space, because I don't know why I'm ignorant. I thought a bunch of real ass people that were talking about stuff that me and you were talking about right now that really ties into the things that is going on in the veteran space. And there wasn't. And it was like, oh, that's how it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it becomes like a good boys club, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're not worthy enough of being in the good boys club, it's like, well, I didn't deploy. I wasn't in combat. I wasn't an infantryman. And it's like, I'm not in the soft community. And I respect those guys. They have a lot of reverence for a reason. But it's like, what about everyone else? A majority of suicides are happening in non-combative MOSs. The VA reported that. And it's like, well, that speaks volumes for the lack of girth in the non-combative MOSs and the community there. So it doesn't surprise me, and it's kind of unfortunate because for the publicly traded veteran-owned businesses out there, you quickly see how it turns into an investor-focused enterprise.
Facts. Facts. I mean, money, no matter what, money talks, and especially in a stat, but something authenticity goes a long way. Authenticity
100%.
goes a long way, and the right people are going to see that, and it's going to grow in the organic way that you wanted it to, and I'm confident in that. I think real recognize real at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And that definitely that helps on all angles.
Oh,
So
100%.
okay. So you just brought on someone new, so you're slowly okay. Where do you see Liborisk going in 5, 10 years?
I anticipate that we'll be operating globally with travel agents who are the itinerary planners. They're the brains of the whole trip. And then we'll have the customer management side who are dealing with the customers as soon as they sign up until they get back home from that trip and even further on after that to maintain that connection. And then we have our facilitators who are the deployed at these retreats. And once we're operating in that level, we'll be able to have trained veterans who are versed in the art of gathering. And I say that because like being a facilitator is a art. You take on a huge amount of responsibility for these human beings emotionally, physically, and psychologically. And so if we can train these facilitators to go out and support these retreats, they'll come back as better human beings, right? And that's just a rinse, recycle, repeat type thing. Over and over again, we'll be able to establish experiences across the globe that focus on travel planning, customer management, and the facilitator side. And again, being veteran owned, that's my biggest focus. Let's create jobs, veterans that serve and continue to serve the military community.
I like it. Now, this may be a reach, but I be connecting dots and whatnot. But
Send it.
I think, and I'm gonna bring you into today a little bit, what's going on in today. And I feel like today there's a lot of harsh opinions from people that have never left the United States, have never traveled in any form or aspect. And when you do, you start to see that there is something you didn't expect. It's kind of some ways because I mean I know probably the only time I had left the United States before the Marines was like a Hawaii vacation or something. I was never immersed in a community or somewhere else. And I was greatly relieved and happy of what I saw. And it made some views in my head dampen down significantly. You know what I mean? I think it goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, traveling elevates your perspective of humanity, and your perspective can
For
be a
sure.
passport or a prison, right? If you allow it to be a passport, then you're allowing yourself to become open-minded and absorbent to things in life, whether you agree with it or not. It allows you to expand your horizons. And if you maintain a prisoned, central perspective, then of course everything in the world is going to look negative and untrustworthy.
Facts.
There's so much judgment around that. So I believe that we could tremendously impact the military community by expanding their perspective. And one of the biggest things that we focus on too is the art of risk taking. Now,
Ooh.
oftentimes riskiness and recklessness tend to be equated to each other, and they are just not the same.
No, they're not.
In order for something to be deemed a risk, there has to be some sort of reward. And that can be very subjective, right?
For
But
sure.
it's such a spectrum of things. And so I encourage a lot of taking in our trips so people understand, like, hey, whether it's swimming with sharks or solo backpacking in country or just opening up to a friend and being more
Try
vulnerable.
something new. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. It's such a good way to talk about taking more risks.
If you don't test that boundary, certain things will never happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know what you mean, and that's an awesome way you put there. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So now someone that was in the military when social media was like before and after, like before it was and then after it hit.
Yeah, kind of. So I remember 2017 kind of being the pivotal year of when Instagram was like really, really taking off. It kind of happened in 2015, 16, but it wasn't until 2017. And I remember that year too, because that was the year of Marines United. I don't know if you remember that fucking scandal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. That's
Yeah.
funny. Okay.
Yeah. So funnily enough, we were doing a Facebook Live with a gal who just got back from boot camp, and I was interviewing her in one of the recruiting stations in their office, and like the couch that we were sitting on, granted, it looked like a couch.
That's funny.
So our live video got shared to Marines United as it was happening. And it just like, it went from a few questions being asked for this new girl that just got out of boot camp to a shitstorm of just some of the most gruesome
Vile.
things. It went vile. It was so violent. They chose violence. So that was like, I remember that experience and just thinking to myself, this poor girl, she's just about to go in the fleet, and this is what she's experiencing. So to answer your question, yeah, I remember. Yeah, that seemed like a pivotal year for social media.
Is it a positive?
I think so. I mean, social media is such a frustrating thing, right? Because you see the incredible ability for people to get connected and create relationships that just, I mean, the person that I'm onboarding right now as a team member for Liborisk, I met through social media. So there's an incredible power behind it, but there's some darkness too, right?
Yes,
like everything, even the travel industry is incredibly dark. So you just got to be able to put in the effort to see the good side of it.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, definitely, I've made some great connections that I normally wouldn't have made if I didn't have social media. It's that it connects like-minded individuals to a certain degree.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we connected over social media, right?
Facts. Honestly, you were just something that I enjoyed seeing. I honestly, you radiate a positivity that's needed in the veteran community because we tend to be a little bit on the negative side. And when kind of like I would say a berserker that goes against the system and they remain positive to a certain degree. It radiates a certain I don't know, vibe that is needed, I think, most definitely. And that's what I got out of your social media. And I thought you're doing a great job, honestly.
Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate that. And I think we've said it a few times, right? That like that vibration of authenticity reverberated and it's felt, it's just felt.
Facts. Prime example. And honestly, if you can keep doing that, even on a small ratio, you know what I'm saying? You're still winning. And that's what I always say about my podcast. Honestly, if I'm not like getting on like a Rogan level or some ridiculous level where I have a bunch of viewers, I'm cool just because I'm loving it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's doing good for me and I'm having a great time doing it. And I think that's something that revolves around you guys as well. And it's noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a really good book I read called The Motivation Myth, and it talked about the inherent love for the process of things. And it's like what has projected some of the, most amazing professionals in this world, regardless of their genre or career field, industry, their entire fascination with the process is what's helped them maintain momentum and happiness, right? Because I think that we can all get incredibly overwhelmed with the business side of things, with money, with funding, with revenue, and all the bullshit. But remembering that process and our ability to just enhance people's lives, that's like an incredible thing.
Facts.
It's hard, but it's so worth it.
No, it definitely is. It's definitely just worth it just to see something grown your own way. Because honestly, what do we always do? We always look at everybody else and we're like, oh man, they did it like that, or they did it like this. I would have done this. I would have done that. So when you actually have something that you can kind of curate a little bit, it just hits harder. Most definitely.
Yeah, you're responsible for it.
Definitely. And honestly, it's got me into some things I never thought I would get into. Like all of a sudden I'm into poetry. Love poetry. Diving into it. Yeah, like just I would never do that.
Poet, right?
Justin Egan definitely is up there. He sings to my heartstrings. And then we also got someone right here, Benjamin Fortier. I had him on my podcast recently. Homie's killing it. Just
cool.
He taps into that dark, fucked up side that we need to get stroked a little bit because we're all psychos at the end of the day. And we need to hear that just a little bit of like blood spilling, walking through poppies and just doing some, Marine shit. And I think it's to a like standard of just authenticity. And it's just like, that motherfucker's real. He did that shit. And it hits. I like it. It's like a good rap song.
Oh, for sure. I have to give like big shout out to, do you know Mason Rodriguez?
Of course, Mason Rodriguez, dude. Oh my God, love him,
good.
Dude. He was one of the first homies that came on the pod, dude. Absolute savage with the shit too, dude. These are top tier lyricists, Marine Corps lyricists in the poetry game. That's what we're putting real quick. We want to always categorize rappers and shit. You know what? The Marines that are doing it right now, poetry wise, spitting that fire. We got Mason Rodriguez, we got Justin Egan, we got Ben. holding it down, spitting that real shit, that Hellman shit. Yeah.
100%. He's such a good guy. I'm
Yeah.
like so grateful that I met him. But yeah, his poetry is awesome.
So are you also getting in? I mean, have you gotten involved with PV Abate? What do you think?
So I have been following Tom Schumann since he started it, who again is a phenomenal human being. And I've always supported their efforts because I feel like they're taking such a fresh take to the nonprofit industry. I know I talk shit about nonprofits, but like they're doing it right. They are doing it right. And they've made all these clubs that have created a genre of interests. And so with those specified interests, they have these retreats, and I finally got to go to one. It was for jujitsu and martial arts. And I just started my jujitsu journey. It is a humbling, ass-kicking
Oh, tell me about
experience.
it.
I
Tell
would
me about it.
recommend it for every veteran.
It
And
sucks, but you'll
going
love it.
there, dude, it's just like, it's life-changing. It's life-changing. So I got to go to one of their retreats, and it was the best veteran program that I've been a part of thus far.
No kidding. Okay. So
Yeah.
did it influence you at all? Did it like make you want to do different things with Liborisk, or did it send you in a certain way?
No, I think ultimately they have a really great way of specifying their interest, which is really cool. And I don't know if I want to necessarily replicate that because I think what they're doing is great. You know, I don't need to recreate the wheel if they're doing it wonderfully. It's just when I go to their experiences, it helps me understand the diverse types of
Where
active
everyone
duty.
else is at. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
diversity
yeah.
that exists in their programs, and then continuing to see the different types of veterans and connect with them. I just really enjoyed getting to be also with really high caliber people. Like the jujitsu community draws a very specific type of individual, right?
For
Like
sure, for
hard.
sure. That just want to get
So
it done. That just want to be able to
yes,
put you out in any situation. Like I just want to take control and put you down. Like that's a
yeah.
certain individual that gets involved. Puts
Well, and
part of their
you're
own time into becoming a killer.
100%. And like you're entrusting your life with them when you're rolling with them. It's almost like this nonverbal agreement of like, I trust you, you trust me, let's push each other, but let's not break each other. And that dance between you and the person you're rolling with is it's incredible.
For
You
sure.
have to be a certain type of person. So having gone to a retreat that was specifically sought out by those types of people, I was like, man, this is it. This is the circle of people that I want to be surrounded by.
You,
They challenge me to be better.
you get a certain relationship with that individual because you got to be really comfortable with an individual to beat the shit out of you and just trust them that they're going to make you better and stronger in the field. Like that's a certain type of relationship that you only have with certain types of people, and it definitely it built in a way that is attractive, I think, to the right people.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's just it's necessary to ex-body. There's a great quote by Plato. It says, engage in physical fitness for the sake of the soul. So when you continue that as a veteran, you just remember like your mental health and psychological state is resting on the sheer fact of have I exercised my body today? And if you
That's
haven't, then there's your initial decline for why you're not feeling better. So
a fact. That's a fact. I think a lot of people get in these just humdrum moods of not, and they get comfortable not doing anything. And
mm,
when you're not doing anything, you just become this static waste, and it hits your brain hard because you start losing your confidence in everything. And confidence is something that drives us throughout our day to day. And I think when you sit back and you don't do anything, that just drains out of you. And you don't do exactly what we've been talking about for 45 minutes. Test your boundaries, try new shit. Hit that point of no return every time, and you're going to slowly become a very self-reliant, strong individual.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's just it continues to showcase type of people that you want to be around and the circle of influence that you want to have. That is it's fundamental to maintaining that. And if the people around you aren't choosing to grow in a physical mental capacity, then you're going to remain stagnant and they're going to leave you behind, or
Wrong
you'll leave
circle.
them behind
Yeah,
too.
exactly. I get that. Okay. All right. Well, I think you gave us a great encapsulation of what is you and where you're going with Liborisk. I appreciate that. I think my viewers will as well. If you could tell us where we can reach you, where we can find all your stuff, shout out who you want to shout out, and give us a little parting gift here.
We have a really robust website with all different types of information about different regions in the world, travel deals, military organizations that exist by genre and state. I mean, anything and everything you need to know about being a military traveler is on there. That is a great website to check out. We also have a private Facebook group where members can connect, share travel tips, guidance, whatever they care about when it comes to travel, recreation, and the outdoors. And then we also have our Instagram and TikTok where we're constantly sharing travel stories of those who serve.
Awesome. Awesome. Jessica, thank you so much for coming on my platform today. I've been watching you for probably 5-6 months now. I love what you're doing. Keep plugging away. You're doing great. And I think you're really affecting the hearts and minds of the veteran community. And I think it's only going to get better for you. And I'm pumped to see you succeed. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 86 with Jessica Quezada, Liborisk. Thank you and have a good night.